What's good, everybody? Cygnus Jason here with GameSide. Usually, I like to take it easy as it gets towards the end of the year, but September and October decided to saddle me with half a dozen game releases, so I'll be getting some quality video editing time in. Now feels like a good time to remind any of you currently not subscribed to the channel to subscribe to the channel. I'd love to eventually turn the solo operation that is GameSide into a team effort and maybe do this full time. At the very least, I'd like this to become something that can pay my rent.
I'm really sorry, Mr. Dickovich. All I got is this 20 to the rest of the week.
Sorry doesn't pay the rent.
Anyway, the first breakdown to check off my to-do list is Metal Eden, an off-the-walls sci-fi action FPS developed by Raycon Games. Raycon Games is an indie studio founded in 2014 based in Warsaw, Poland. Their first developed game, twin-stick shooter Ruiner, released September 26, 2017, and was actually one of the first games I played on Steam. Although it was well received and there were talks about a film adaptation, Ruiner is seemingly the only revenue source that Raycon's had since then. In 2021, Kotaku reported that, amidst an avalanche of studio layoffs including big boys like Microsoft and Riot Games, Raycon Games lost a sizable amount of their staff. Somehow or another, they weathered the storm and survived long enough to put out another hit, Metal Eden. The game was originally slated to launch on May 6th of 2025, but it was delayed twice, so Raycon could iron out any bugs mentioned in player feedback from the demo that was released back in April. If you've played Ruiner, you'll notice some very similar themes. Set in a sci-fi dystopia, you're a heavily cybernetically modified human with a knack for violently murdering anyone that looks at you funny, with an equally weird cast of characters taking turns talking in your head, trying to steer you towards helping them with whatever personal goals they want to achieve, morally dubious or otherwise. Metal Eden is very much a rootin' roller coaster ride in that whether you're shooting, moving, or both, you're doing so quickly and fluidly. Once the mechanics and controls click for you, you'll be in a constant state of flow from mission start to mission end. The movement in Metal Eden, much like the movement in a certain rip and tear simulator that undoubtedly inspired it in a few spots, only came together once I found the best sensitivity settings for a controller, because you can't run and gun if you can't aim. The missions are decidedly linear as far as the path you need to take, to the point where it's almost impossible to get lost. After mission 0, you can start finding some off-the-beaten-path goodies like extra lives, core level upgrades, which unlock or enhance your passive abilities, and dust vials, which are larger deposits of the currency used to purchase weapon upgrades. Your movement abilities include lift jumps, wall running, and grappling. Lift jump height and dash uses are dependent on your fuel, which only recharges once your feet touch the ground or the surface of a wall. Wall running was something I always managed to fail at, no matter how confident I was that I was doing it right, and regardless of how far into the game I got, but that's my cross to bear. Grappling is fun and gets used both in and out of combat, but it can only be done to specific grapple points. Next we have zip lines, which allow you to cover a lot of ground very quickly, while an NPC hits you with some exposition. Don't get distracted by the views and the voices though. Enemies can ambush you while you're on zip lines, and zip lines can end abruptly, meaning you'll have to jump to another zip line to finish the trip. I like that because it's another way the game ensures that you stay locked in even though you're technically outside of combat. Fortunately, there's a distance countdown towards the top of your HUD while on a zipline, so you know exactly when to expect to switch lines or disembark. Lastly, there's ball mode. Sometimes you'll come across an expansive stretch of ground to cover. You could walk, but you have the ability to take on a ball form and roll to your objective, which is much faster. Some traversal spots in ball areas will require you to flip back and forth between ball mode and your default Android mode in order to make it through. You also have a boost you can use while in ball mode in order to run over enemies or simply roll faster. Combat while in ball mode is also just as fast paced as dangerous as it is in Android mode, so don't think you can just sit back and relax. Combat officially begins when you hear
Warning, ISP units inbound.
And your success in combat heavily relies on what I'm going to call the big three: health, armor, and ammo. Any of the big three can be gained from slain enemies or pickups. Pretty much every actual combat encounter has all three pickups available, placed in various spots around the arena, and they recharge 30 seconds after you pick them up. Pickups may be up high, down low, in the middle of a wall run, or up in an aerial path taken via a jump pad or grapple point. Mobility is the name of the game. You stand still and you die. The necessity of staying mobile is even more serious on the higher difficulties. There's a special combat encounter where you have to remain in rotating small areas while a scanner charges, and even then you have to pick when and how long you want to remain in those areas. Use every method of movement at your disposal to run circles around your enemies, keeping your health, armor, and ammo topped off while wearing down the enemy. Plan routes around the arena that pick up whichever of the big three you're running low on, and always keep enemy placement in mind. Break line of sight as often as you need to in order to keep the enemies from getting a bead on you. Enemies have health and armor, just like you do. However, where your armor only mitigates any health damage you take, enemy armor prevents damage to their health altogether. Your weapons will deal either kinetic or energy damage. Kinetic is the most effective on unarmored targets, and energy is the most effective on armored targets. Your melee attack can also stagger most enemies, whether they're armored or not. When faced with an armored target, you can wear down their armor quickly, either by damaging it with energy weapons or meleeing them, which staggers them, leaving them temporarily extra vulnerable to all damage types. Once their armor's gone, you're allowed to end them the old-fashioned way, or rip out their cores. Core extraction is an ability that allows you to essentially rip the heart out of any unarmored enemy and do one of two things: huck it at another enemy to damage them, or consume it to turn your next melee attack into a super punch, which will completely shatter most enemies' armor in one shot. Core extraction has a 30-second cooldown, which feels like an eternity in this game, but there are core level upgrades and recharge pickups that can lessen or eliminate that cooldown respectively. Completing major combat encounters rewards you with a core level upgrade point. Core level upgrades can do various things like double the distance from which you can perform core extractions, make enemies drop more of any of the big three depending on how they're killed, allow you to perform multiple super punches or replenish more health from core extractions, and a lot more. Also, remember what I said earlier, core level upgrade points can be found in side rooms along the main mission paths, so don't be afraid to look around a bit. A word of warning, sometimes those side rooms can trap you for an enemy ambush, so it's safer to keep your guard up at all times. In Mission 0 of the game, you start with the Hertz AP, a reliable weapon, and the only one with infinite ammo. It deals decent damage, but can overheat fairly quickly until you get some upgrades into it. Shortly after that, you find the U9 Supra kinetic pistol, which kicks like a mule and deals higher per shot damage. Much to my disappointment, you can't ADS with most weapons in Metal Eden, probably because aiming would require you to move slower or stand still, which would be in stark contrast to how the game was designed. All weapons are useful in certain situations, and just over halfway through the game, when your radial weapon wheel is full, the game can truly begin. You can use dust found in vials around the missions and a little at a time from slain enemies to upgrade your weapons at the shop. Weapons have 2 upgrade paths, with one initial upgrade that unlocks an alternate weapon function, and 2 subsequent upgrades that make it work better. My favorite part of any game is when a weapon upgrade changes the look of the weapon. I like to see proof of my progress. You can see what a weapon's initial upgrade can do prior to purchasing it, and if you purchase both alternative function upgrades on the same weapon, you can swap between them by visiting any shop. There are also ammo types across weapons, and 2 weapons can use the same type of ammo, but it's never problematic. In those cases, both weapons work equally well, so it really comes down to your own preference on which one you want to use. One handy addition to your arsenal I almost forgot about is the freeze grenade, which immobilizes all enemies within the explosion radius, giving you some much deserved time to breathe if you deploy one at the right time. I mainly use them if I just realized half my guns haven't been reloaded and there are enemies trying to invade my personal space. At the end of the day, the key to success is to keep moving and keep shooting. Use every weapon at your disposal and every part of the environment to your advantage and you will make it through.
Target's down.
I beat the game in just over 6 hours, which, for a $40 game, is honestly abysmal. I expected twice as many missions, or, at the very least, some sort of replay value. Bruner didn't launch with a New Game Plus, so maybe Metal Eden will get one in the near future. Because right now, starting a new game on a different difficulty quite literally means starting a new game with no weapons and no upgrades. Now it's time for review bombing. This is the part of the breakdown where I go, hey, some people aren't happy with this game, and here's why. I saw one novel-length review that pretty much touched on everything. Honestly, it's more of a rant, but I picked out the main bits so we're not sitting here all day. You really have the courage to sell a beta at this price? When certain developers fail, it's because they shoot themselves in the foot, fire enclosed studios, and it's right that it is so. You reap what you sow, nothing more, nothing less. How did they think they could survive with only one game released in 2017? Ruiner, which sold very poorly because it's a genre that doesn't work. Metal Eden is nothing more than moving from one room to another, killing a few enemies, all identical, moving to the next room through corridors with no exploration, and repeating. It took me just over 6 hours to finish it, and considering the cost, not high but not low either. I would have expected a few more hours and content since other games that have the same cost have much more content and many more hours of gameplay. These are one of the negative aspects of this game, which has nothing exceptional nor anything different from other similar titles in terms of gameplay mechanics, interchangeable weapon modules, and few skills to unlock. End of story. This game feels incomplete in the storyline and much more. It feels like a game created in a hurry, and it's a shame because it deserved more care. After a few hours, I immediately realized I was close to the end of the game, and I asked myself the question, is that it? Then I reached the final boss and the credits. As much as Metal Eden is a nice but castrated game because I like the story, the character, the setting, the graphics, the few available weapons, and even the few character skills, it's really all too little, and this game is absolutely not worth the price at which it is sold. As much as I liked it, I can't review it positively. After playing it, I had a strong feeling that this game wanted to say much more than it showed me, and it could have done it. It could have even beaten other shooters, but it's a game whose legs were unfortunately cut off. I really feel sorry for this wasted opportunity, and the positive reviews are completely fake. This game deserves much more, possibly sell the IP to someone who has the skills and the funds. It probably wasn't even loved by the creators themselves. Calling the game a beta is a bit harsh, but I can see where they're coming from in their frustration. There is decidedly not $40 of a game present here, and your mileage may vary with Metal Eden's gameplay loop, much like Ruiner's. I wouldn't go so far as to say the positive reviews are fake and the developer simply didn't care though. The game may not be exceedingly complex or expansive, but I enjoyed the experience. Believe me when I say I had fun with this game from start to finish. Nevertheless, had I known it was such a short game, I would have waited for a deep sale, at least 50% off, to buy it. As it stands, Metal Eden would definitely make a superb $20 to $25 game. Unfortunately, no matter how much I like it, it's in no way worth the full price as it is. But that's just my 2 cents. Metal Eden is available now on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC for $40. I open the floor to you guys. Based on everything you've seen and heard regarding the game, do you feel like it's worth the money? Am I way off or right on in my assessment? Let me know in the comments. As per usual, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want to see more. This has been Hyperunit Cygnus Jason, standing by for new mission objective.